Federation for American Immigration Reform.
The safe third country provision is the crux of this deal. Look, anybody who leaves their country saying that they feel that they are going to be persecuted by their government has an obligation to seek political asylum in the first safe country that they come to, not the second, third, or fifth.
But Millman says that is not what these asylum seekers want.
What we have now are people leaving their countries, targeting specific countries like the United States, saying, I don't just want protection, I want protection in a specific country because I prefer to live there.
So Millman says this is not about asylum, but economic opportunity.
Perfectly understandable that if you are seeking better economic conditions, you'd want to come to the United States, not Mexico, but that is not grounds for political asylum.
Millman doesn't see any reason why Mexico wouldn't be willing to sign on to a safe third country agreement.
A college student accused of multiple assaults against women is slated for a court hearing tomorrow. More from Lillian Wu.
New sex assault charges have been filed against a Marshall University student allowed to stay at the West Virginia school despite being convicted in an attack against a woman on campus in 2016. The new indictment claims Joseph Harden assaulted 2 women last year. In September and October, he was jailed Friday for violating probation. Harden, now 22, was originally charged with second-degree sexual assault in 2016, then convicted on a misdemeanor battery charge, getting 3 years probation and a suspended jail sentence, which prosecutors now want reinstated.
The rain is tapering off today, but much of the country will deal with the start of a heat wave.
The heavy rain that spread across the East Coast is now moving offshore, and conditions are improving through the day today. Excessive heat is the story over much of the West, from the southwest to the northwest, as a ridge of high pressure expands. Heat watches and warnings are up for major cities, including Las Vegas, Phoenix, Portland, and San Francisco. Temperatures will be dangerous today and tomorrow, and people are advised to avoid being outside for a prolonged period of time, especially in the afternoon hours. I'm Janice Dean, Fox News.
For American Family News, I'm Steve Pugh.
Stephen Black.
Because my molester spoke to me while being molested that I had somehow caused this, I had a deep sense of darkness and shame. The thing that I see in others is ministering to them, this deep sense of shame. And that's what brings about healing once that is discovered, that their innocence was taken from them.
The Marriage, Family, and Life Conference is coming June 20th through the 22nd. Learn more and register at urbanfamilytalk.com.
She's sharp, pointed, and insightful. This is Stacy on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
The first announced witness of the 116th Congress is Michael Cohen. The guy sits in prison today for lying to Congress. And now we got John Dean.
The last time I appeared before your committee was July 11, 1974, during the impeachment inquiry of Richard Nixon. Clearly, I'm not here today as a fact witness.
And now coming in to enlighten the Judiciary Committee on Obstruction of Justice.
I actually wrote a book about Mr. Bush and Mr. Cheney with the title Worse Than Watergate.
We would all do well to remember, if they can do it to a president, imagine what they can do to you and me. Imagine what they can do to regular citizens across this great country.
And now, Stacy Washington.
Oh, imagine what anyone with the power of the subpoena can do to regular old Americans. I don't know, like Mueller put people in solitary confinement, like, they yanked Kavanaugh and his entire family, and even people who he'd been friends with for years and years and years who had nothing to do with politics. They drug them all through the mud. Oh, yeah, it's war. It's war, baby. You're not getting away from it. You cannot escape it. That's what they're bringing to you right now. So, it's not just buyer beware. It's look and be warned. And it's depressing, actually, but not really, because we know God is greater than all of that. And so welcome to the program. Today, we're going to be chatting with Liz Harrington. She's the RNC national spokesperson. She's going to join us to give us some more details on the Mexico-U.S. border agreement that we've finally come to a place where the Mexicans are willing to actually work with us. It's actually a success story, and I'm glad that we have it. We're also going to be taking calls the entire hour, 866-963-2037, 866-963-2037 if you want to join the show. I want to get into, in just a minute, Representative Omar. So we've discussed this on the program just a tad before. We haven't had as many details, but now it's kind of unavoidable, the details, because she's actually had a campaign finance violation lodged against her. One of the boards in Minnesota that covers campaign finance and public disclosure, they actually investigated her and found that she has to repay some of the money that she was able to claim. Now, in and of itself, this is not that big of a deal. If you're doing a political campaign and it's your first time and you don't have absolutely meticulous people working on the campaign, violations can occur. The reason that these boards exist is to look into irregularities. And if there is an irregularity that's found, they fine you sometimes. Sometimes they just ask you to correct it. Really, this happens. So the story that I'm sharing with you and the perspective that I'm taking is not that she's a horrible person because she committed a campaign finance violation. The laws are so tricky and so myriad that you need experienced campaign people, your treasurer and everybody that handles anything to do with the campaign. They have to be really experienced and they have to be careful. And even careful, experienced individuals will sometimes have a slip up with that and have to go back and, they look at it again. You pay the money that's owed if there is anything that's owed, and then you're done. So the story here is not that she had a violation. The story is that she's actually, she was married to two people at the same time. And beyond that, because apparently I can't excuse the being married to more than one person at a time, but let me just tell you the story and you tell me what you think. Again, if you want to get in the call queue to weigh in on Ilhan Omar, let's do it. The lines are open, 866-963-2037, 866-963-2037. So it's Representative Ilhan Omar. She's a Democrat. She's from Minnesota. She's a refugee. She's, a whole lot of things. CBS Minnesota has summarized the history of her personal relationships and campaign finance board documents as such. Omar has two children with Ahmed Hirsi. Ahmed Hirsi is who she was married to in the early 2000s. Well, actually, she had two children with him, but she wasn't married to him. So let's start over. In the early 2000s, she and Ahmed Hirsi had two children. They didn't get married. So 9 years later, in 2009, she legally married Ahmed Elmi. Now, Ahmed Elmi, you might be thinking, that name sounds familiar. Ahmed Elmi is actually her brother. Now, she legally married Ahmed Elmi. But then, after marrying him, she received a faith-based divorce. So a divorce in Islam, not a legal one, but a faith-based one. The faith-based divorce is actually, that was finalized in 2011. Then in 2012, she reconciled with Hirsi, the first Ahmed Hirsi, and they had their third child together. She and Hirsi then filed a joint married tax return in 2014 and 2015. And in 2016, Omar's lawyer and accountants found that her filings needed to be corrected. So a year later, Omar filed for divorce from Elmi, her brother. And then in 2018, she legally married the man she's been in love with the whole time. The man that's really, I don't think their relationship ever actually stopped. So why would she have married her brother? Well, she wanted to get him into the country lawfully. So last week, the Campaign Finance Board voted to cite Omar for campaign finance violations, finding she had accepted speaking fees and had erroneously used campaign funds to speak at a political rally in Boston, among other transgressions. So Ahmed Nur Said Elmi is her brother. So the obvious question that the Star Tribune appears to have failed to have asked is, who, first of all, is he actually your brother? Could you explain to us how she felt she could be lawfully married to her brother? Is marriage to your brother lawful in Islam? And for the purposes of the American legal system, since she was in the United States, is that marriage still legal? And has anyone looked into that? Also, why did she feel it was lawful to file joint returns with the first man before her legal marriage to him last year, while she was married to another man who happens to be her brother from 2009 to 2017? Again, she was married to her own brother from 2009 to 2017. A question that comes to my mind also is, how is it that all of this went on and it was never uncovered, never discussed, nothing before she was elected to Congress? It seems like marrying your brother would be something that would be disqualifying for being elected to Congress. I don't care what kind of a person you are, or if you're a Democrat or a Republican. It seems like marrying your brother and staying married to him for years and years and years would disqualify you from being in Congress. So you can find a related timeline on the tax and marriage issue for Ilhan Omar at the St. Paul Pioneer Press. And, you know, there are others who are looking into it, namely the Powerline blog, and Michelle Malkin and others are actually paying attention to this. David Steinberg and others are paying attention to this story, even though the mainstream news media has kind of covered it. They covered the campaign violation aspect of it primarily. And this isn't one of those things where I'm like, nanny, boo boo. Look, you know, we mentioned this before on the show. I didn't have very many details. I looked online. I couldn't find much. So you go with what you can find. But now that this campaign finance violation has highlighted exactly what's happened with her, it's worth it for us to say what happened here. It is worth it for us to say, how is it that a Democrat can marry their own brother and stay married to their own brother for years and years and years, and then run for Congress and get elected? And so that, you know, obviously, I think the fact that she's Islamic has something to do with the fact that it was overlooked, that she's black. You know, that's one of the reasons it was overlooked. We always see this huge double standard. We saw it with Jussie Smollett up in Chicago. Google's actually using their algorithm to prevent him from having his name searched and associated with the actual crime he committed up there by falsifying records and filing a false police report for a crime that didn't actually occur because he paid people to do it. It was basically just a setup, a play that he put on. So Google doesn't want you to be able to search and find out about that. So if you haven't already found it, or you don't know where directly to go look for it, just type in the name of the blog where the information is, then Google's not going to help you find out what Jussie Smollett did. He's black. He's gay. And remember, on the hierarchy of things, gay and black puts you way above any white person or any conservative black person or conservative of any kind. His transgressions have already been not just forgiven, but now they're being wiped from memory by Google. And Ilhan Omar, we should have been able to find easily out about this because the mainstream media would have reported it until the cows came home. It would be 24 hours of coverage on CNN and MSNBC, and all of the local affiliates would have picked the story up and ripped and read it. AP would have had it on there, the Newswire. Reuters would have had it up at the top of the banner. It would have been a story if a Republican who was white or Mormon or anything, any Republican at all, had married their own brother in order to get them into the country. Look at the way they treat Melania Trump and Melania Trump's parents. Melania is an immigrant. She's married to Donald Trump. Her parents were given the same kind of chain migration visas that he is now railing against with good reason. Just because his family benefited from it doesn't mean it's not a bad idea. It's not a idea that has ran its course and needs to be eliminated. So what's so funny about this is that this is just now coming up, but I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts it still doesn't get covered. As my auntie in Tennessee likes to say, that dog won't hunt. The dog I'm talking about is the story that she married her brother. It's not going to hunt because there's no way the media is going to allow their darling, Ilhan Omar, to have her personal affairs placed under a microscope for the rest of us to not just look at and be shocked by, but the jeering and mockery and the memes. They don't want it. But this is their baby. This is their chick. This is their standard bearer with her headscarf of oppression on, talking about how this thing some man told her to wear because she's not allowed to show her hair in public because a man told her to. That's supposed to be the symbol of freedom. And she's supposed to be the symbol of the new Democratic Party, which is all Islam all day, unless it's tossing gays off of rooftops, and then it's not. And we're not supposed to be concerned that even after all this, and again, I stress that campaign finance violations are not actually rare. And the way you know it's not rare is because after all of that, she agreed to repay $3,500 of money that, somehow was improperly allocated. And the fine for her misdeeds is $500. That's not exactly a king's ransom. That's why I say that the story here, yeah, she had a whole bunch of different things that were not compliant with applicable tax law. She had a bunch of stuff that was not exactly up to snuff with the campaign finance laws in Minnesota. But the big story here is she was married to one guy, filing tax returns claiming she was married to another. And one of the dudes, both named Ahmed, one of the Ahmeds was her brother. So can you see the headlines? Republican marries own sister. Incest America. GOP equates incest to family values. GOP thinks incest is patriotic. There would be no end to the headlines that they would cook up. And people would be camped out outside that Republican's house asking his current wife, how do you feel about the fact that your husband was married to his sibling? What do you think went on there? Asking the kids. They would not stop until they destroyed not just the person's life who did the marrying, but also the people who were involved. Anyone who was even slightly involved with this whole story. Oh, and the campaign finance? That would also be used to paint this Republican as some kind of werewolf, a money-grubbing, demon who could do no right, only out to shake down the little man. Just take a look around over the next 24 hours and see if you see this story anywhere in the mainstream media. Ilhan Omar married to her brother, falsifying tax records, messing up her campaign finance records. See if you see it anywhere. When we get back, we have Liz Harrington from the RNC. Stay there.
Here's American Family Association President Tim Wildman.
Lynn Ingram and Jim Duncan, two Texans, support and believe in our ministry here at AFA and AFR. We know more about the laundry business than anything else. We know a little bit about a lot of things, but we know a lot about the laundry and dry cleaning business. They created a laundry detergent to sell to folks to support AFA.
We just want to be able to provide a product that can be used by AFA to support the ministry.
When you wash your family's clothes with Redeem Clean laundry detergent, you can take great satisfaction in knowing that you're supporting the vital work of the American Family Association. It's a unique way to increase your giving to AFA. For clean laundry and support of a cleaner society, it's Redeem Clean. Learn more about the Redeem Clean products when you visit redeemclean.afastore.net.
Hi, I'm Crawford Loritz with a Legacy Moment. Recently, I had a wonderful conversation with a friend of mine. We were getting caught up with our lives, especially about our children. I shared with him that I had had the privilege of being with his two adult sons recently. Both of them are involved in ministry, and I shared how impressed I was to see how God is using these fine young men. After I shared that with him, my friend said to me, Crawford, I could die and go to heaven today. I could tell he's a blessed and joyful man. For the most part, all parents listening to me today desperately desire that their children live out the values they've been taught. We want our kids to do better, every last one of us. I remember my dad saying that to me, I want you to do better. And on the flip side, disregarding what you have been taught can bring tragic consequences. Listen to these words in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1. A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish son is a grief to his mother. We can extract three observations from this one verse. Number one, doing what is right brings great joy to our parents. It brings joy to their souls, joy to their hearts. Number two, Make wisdom your friend and apply it to life's choices. Wisdom is not your enemy. Wisdom says, I'd better not do what I feel like doing right now. Let me move toward doing what is right. Make wisdom your friend. And then thirdly, fools live by impulses and immaturely exchange wise counsel for convenience. Don't be a fool. Do what is wise and what is right. Well, here's what I want you to remember today. Not everything that your parents tell you is meant to inhibit your life. Don't be a fool. Listen, learn, and live.
More information about the ministry of Crawford Loritz can be found online at livingalegacy.org.
You can download episodes of Stacy on the Right from the podcast page on AFR.net or UrbanFamilyTalk.com. Now, back to the show on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Hey, welcome back. Find out more at StacyOnTheRight.com. You can see a lot of the shows that we've done. We have YouTube streams of those up so you can watch, or just turn it on while you're cooking or doing dishes or gardening, and you can listen to me opine about everything under the sun. And all of our fantastic guests, like our next guest who has come on the show before, and she's quickly becoming a fan favorite with us, Liz Harrington. She's the RNC national spokesperson and expert, and also she used to be with the award-winning Washington Free Beacon, one of our very favorite websites. Liz, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Hey, you have all of the latest on this deal that the president was able to strike with Mexico on getting them to actually answer promises that they've made, some of them in the past, but they've never really actually put everything on the table and done what they promised. And now they're saying they will, because the threat of tariffs is very real for them, jeopardizing 900,000 of their jobs, our jobs that are in their country. Can you tell us more about what has actually been agreed to?
Sure. First off, 6,000 of their National Guard troops in Mexico are going to be deployed to their border with Guatemala, which is a lot more easier to secure than our very long border, because their border is only 150 miles. And so 6,000 of their members of the National Guard there are, that's historic. Just that alone, that part of the deal is something that's never been done before, and Mexico was building up and getting it legally through their country, forming this new National Guard, but it wasn't happening fast enough. And the president has been talking to negotiators from Mexico for months and months and months, and they haven't stepped up to the plate. They hadn't done anything, and that's why I think the tariffs was so important to get them to the table. They sent a delegation so fast to D.C. to hammer out this deal, and it's absolutely because of the tariff threat. And the other major part of the deal vastly expands the Remain in Mexico policy, which is so we don't have to accept the asylum seekers, which we know a big majority of them do not have legitimate claims under our asylum law. They're not fleeing violence or anything. They're looking for economic reasons, which is not asylum. This enforces that in Mexico. So they can apply for asylum, but they have to stay and wait there, rather than us taking them, giving them a court date, and they never show back again, and they have entry into the United States because of the loopholes in our laws. So the bottom line is these are two major parts. The president's also alluded to things that are more to come that they're not going to announce yet, because they want to see how effective these first two things are, and waiting for Mexico to sign on to the rest of the deal. However, these are two hugely important things, and the Democrats have done nothing. And so now we have a situation where Mexico is stepping up to the plate in a way bigger manner than the Democrats in the House are, which is just a sad state of affairs, when they really could come together and just fix the loopholes. We can settle our differences on immigration policy later. They're just not even willing to address the loopholes now, which is clearly a crisis situation. And so absolutely the president is leading on this, and he's really the only person who's getting results.
So what you've described is these are actually huge concessions on Mexico's part. It's going to cost them quite a bit of money to make these things happen. But more than that, it shifts the burden onto them, which it honestly, Liz, commonsensically, if there was a huge, say you have a huge piece of property, and to the south of you, another family has a huge piece of property that's the same width as your own, and people are using their property to access yours, you're going to want to, use law enforcement to protect you. But in the big scheme of things, you're going to be wondering, why would my neighbor to the south of me facilitate and, people breaking and entering to my property? They would be complicit in assisting those people in doing that. And so what we're basically saying to Mexico is they don't have to do anything more than what we expect them to do, like what we're trying to do, which is they should seal their southern border, and then, we address the rest from there.
Absolutely, and they're more than capable of doing that. And the fact is, all of these migrant caravans that are being organized, they were getting free passage through Mexico, and nothing was being done. And they're absolutely, this is a long, treacherous journey. It's 1,000 miles. And the fact is, they had to go through Mexico to do it. So the fact that we have now gotten them to agree, because we're making them have skin in the game with this tariff threat. Negotiations works, but you have to be able to walk away from the deal, right? And you have to be able to walk away from the table and implement real consequences. All these people up here in the establishment in the Hill, they don't seem to understand how the real world works. But the president does, and we needed something to happen. I'm writing an op-ed right now. I'm doing research on this crisis. It's absolutely horrific. And you know who's exploiting it the most? Known criminal sex offenders. They're trying to blend in with these migrant groups. Just last week alone, in El Paso sector, we had at least 4 cases of people who had been already convicted of child sex offenses, been convicted of rape, who've been deported years ago, and guess what? They're back because they're trying to exploit the asylum loopholes in with these caravans. And luckily, these are the ones we know about that have gotten apprehended. But that's just in 1 week alone in one sector. It's absolutely out of control. And again, the Democrats claim to care about the children. Where are they? They do not care. They do not care about closing the loopholes and fixing this crisis, because if there wasn't a magnet, this would stop immediately. But they refuse to do it.
So when you talk about sex offenders, Liz, I understand being ideologically tethered to one group of people. I happen to ideologically believe that the Republicans are better at governing than, say, Democrats. But there would be a place for me where, let's say the Republicans were, in response to the invasion in the South, firing on, migrants who are approaching the border. They're unarmed migrants, and they were firing on them. That would be the place where I would have to separate myself from the Republicans and say, I don't agree with that. So illegal immigration is still illegal, but I don't agree with firing on civilians. I would be able to say that, and I wouldn't hesitate. It wouldn't be a problem for me. What is it that makes Democrats unable to acknowledge that women and children, little girls and little boys, are suffering, not just on the journey, but because they're being sexually trafficked into this country and sold into human slavery, that is something that is being facilitated by leaving the border open, and that even though they want looser immigration, there has to be a place where they can just say, you know what, I'm against that. Why can't we get them to at least admit that that is wrong and it's dangerous and it's happening?
It's a great question, and it's just a really sad state of affairs, because they know it's happening. And yet they don't. I guess they see, anything that the president does, they oppose. And it's all obstruction all the time, or it's endless investigation. But they do not want to give the president a win. But the fact is, it would be a win for the country. It would be a win for children. It'd be a win for citizens who are not citizens, people who are not citizens of our country. This is absolutely a horrific nightmare. Even the New York Times is calling it a nightmare in an editorial that was released on Monday. And yet, where are they? Just not there. We know what's going on there. The sex trafficking, the renting of children. This is another example. The Border Patrol agents are now encountering kids who they've seen multiple times before. And you know why? Because the Flores Agreement, which is a liberal ruling from the Ninth Circuit Court, only allows us to hold children for 20 days. Well, now they're showing up weeks and months later because cartels are renting these kids out to do the 1,000-long mile journey again. This is horrific. People are dying in rivers in these caravans. I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's out of control, and yet Democrats just blame the president for throwing a temper tantrum, as Nancy Pelosi said. What is she talking about? They're the ones who are acting like children and refusing to do anything because they don't want to work with this president. I mean, it's a complete disgrace, and it is shameful.
So just help me out here. So I saw the story about the kids being rented, but so you're saying that, so you have a kid, they make this horrible journey, they stay in custody for 20 days or however many days it is, which that also is almost like torture right now because of the overcrowding. Then they get released into the country with these people that aren't their family, not related to them. And then the child is then turned back over to someone who takes them back out of America so they can do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. These are transnational cartels that are operating on both sides of the borders. I mean, we haven't even mentioned the vast amounts of drugs that are being caught. I mean, that's just what we're getting at these ports of entry. But, I mean, the flow of drugs on both sides of the border is out of control as well. But, yes, absolutely. The Border Patrol, I heard from an senior administrative official that they have seen upwards of 4,000 cases of recycled children, and that
4,000.
What disturbing. Yeah.
So this is
because there's nothing we can do by law. There's nothing they can do because this ridiculous court order prevents officials from holding them for more than 20 days. I mean, it's absolutely out of control, and the Democrats do not care. They do not care. We could solve this problem in a minute. We could at least give the Border Patrol their $4.5 billion that they asked for over a month ago. Nothing. Congress is just refusing to act. So that's why at least we have a president who understands this crisis. He's doing everything he can day in, day out to give the Border Patrol the resources they need and to solve this problem. But, I mean, Mexico's stepping up. Where are the Democrats?
So just want to make sure because this is one of the things that when people like you take time to come on the show and you give us this kind of information, it's shocking. It really gets people upset. I usually get some messages afterwards like, oh, I can't believe, this is what's going on and what can we do? Obviously, one thing we can do is support the president and his agenda. We can refuse to vote for people who oppose the president's agenda on immigration, and it's his signature key issue, that and the economy, and he's trying to deliver on it. And we can also say to other people that are asking, well, why are you so bigoted? Why do you hate immigrants? Well, what do you say? Like, you're so good at summing things up and giving like a one or two sentences. What do you say to someone who their heart is in the right place? They feel like people should be allowed to come in. But what you've just described is third world movie type stuff. It's not supposed to be the reality in the greatest nation on earth that this is happening to people.
Right. The compassionate thing to do is to not give criminals more power to exploit human beings, to exploit our laws. And, I mean, they're profiting off of this. So the compassionate thing to do would be to solve this crisis. So people, it's not their fault. They're being told, they're being encouraged by these liberal activists on one hand and then cartels on the other. They're being encouraged to come. They're being organized to come. They're being promised that they can get here through the loopholes in our system. And that's what's creating this vast magnet that people are showing up that actually legally they're never going to be allowed to be admitted because they do not meet the standards of the asylum laws. And in the meantime, cartels are also using it and infiltrating these caravans, and profiting off of it. And so the compassionate thing to do is to solve the problem and end the magnet, which is these loopholes in our system, these absolutely insane court orders that we're living under. That is the compassionate thing to do, because it would stop this insane flow. We cannot process people who are actually seeking legitimate claims of asylum, who we want to help. I mean, we can't just take floods of 100,000 people and process them. It's just we're not capable of doing it right now, and that's why you see the conditions, and they're running out of shelter space. I mean, they're absolutely at the breaking point. And so the compassionate thing to do, give the experts on the border, our brave men and women who are risking their lives every day, not only give them the resources they need, but stop the magnet. Stop this insane flow, because it's only helping criminal entities and criminal actors. That's all it's helping. It's not helping people who actually are seeking legitimate asylum.
So I think that's awesome. People should head over to YouTube. You can actually clip out portions of stuff that you like. You could clip out this interview with Liz Harrington, RNC National Spokesperson. Share that on your Facebook page. You could share it with a friend. You could email them the link and say, look, this is why. Look, this is not something that you're against. You're not afraid of immigrants. You're not sharing this information because you've got a problem. You're talking about true facts, things that are happening to people. And we want to stop it, not because we don't want people to come here. We want lawful immigration, but we don't want children trafficked. We don't want women trafficked, and we don't want criminal organizations sending drugs and people over the border that would do us harm. And you've just perfectly encapsulated all of that. And I really appreciate your time today. Liz Harrington, RNC National Spokesperson, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Talk to you again soon. She's going to have her op-ed up, so you can just check online for that. She's a fantastic writer, and I've always enjoyed reading her work. And now it's great to have her in this role, advocating for common sense policy that's coming really on the heels of Americans writ large saying that this is what we want. We want common sense at the border. You know what's funny about all of this is that we've actually increased the number of lawful immigrants who are coming into this country. So every year it's a little more than the year before. So it's not as if we're not bringing people in legally. So the idea that the Democrats are not supporting closing the southern border because we don't have enough legal immigration, that's just not true. And we can do better. We will do better. But only if and only we decide to do what's right at the southern border to prevent human beings from being treated like plane tickets, train tickets. I mean, can you imagine renting a child? Can you imagine what these kids are going through? All right. When we get back, we'll be talking to you, 866-963-2037. Stay there.
This is Uncommon Moments. Here's former Super Bowl winning NFL coach Tony Dungy and his wife Lauren sharing from their book Uncommon Marriage.
Sometimes God opens a door that is very unexpected.
About a year after we adopted Jordan, the adoption agency called and told us about a mother who's going to deliver a baby in the next couple of weeks. Since they didn't have anyone in place to adopt this baby, they thought of us. Of course, I wanted to pursue this unexpected opportunity. Before we knew it, we were preparing for number 5.
You know, when God surprises you in life, it's important to be close to Him, to be walking in His presence, knowing that unexpected surprises in life can become blessings. So remember not to drift away from God, or you might miss His blessings for you.
Tony and Lauren Dungy, authors of Uncommon Marriage. Discover more at CoachDungy.com.
Family is an institution set forth by God, one man and one woman for life, with the outflow being children produced by that union. It's obvious to all that there is an attack on the family in our country, and especially on fathers. Whether it's the cycle of sin that persists in our families or the pressure from our government to exclude men from being intimately involved, the strategic battle is on for the souls of men. Join us in the battle to strengthen fatherhood. UrbanFamilyTalk.com.
Miki Addison.
My challenge to you was to evangelize your children and to disciple your children and to give them the truth. Because if you don't do that, then we have a culture that's waiting in the wings to disciple your kids and to make converts. And so I really believe and I expect the Lord to really set some people free today.
The Marriage, Family, and Life Conference is coming June 20th through 22nd. Learn more and register at urbanfamilytalk.com.
Fox on Faith with Lauren Green.
While the U.S. is engaged in a trade war with China, watchdog groups are warning of China's religious persecution, and enemy number one is Christianity.
China has done the math.
David Curry is the founder and CEO of Open Doors USA, which monitors religious persecution around the world. China, he says, is a growing concern. In the 30 years since the Tiananmen Square massacre, Christianity has grown by leaps and bounds, and that's why the communist government is running scared.
And so what they're trying to do in a lot of ways is to bring Christian faith under their boot by monitoring them, by making lists, by deciding who can go to church, who can't go to church, making sure that they know who all is going to church.
And the technology-enhanced persecution doesn't stop with Christians.
China has the ability to do this, obviously, against Muslims, against Jewish people, against any number. You could just see where this might go.
For Fox on Faith, Lauren Green, Fox News.
This is Stacy on the Right with Stacy Washington on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
I can understand to a certain extent, if you're a politician and your brother runs a garage or something like that, there's no need to disclose. But the problem is that corruption's being globalized. And what that means is that foreign governments and foreign oligarchs, Eric, are looking to recruit the family members of politicians because they believe by striking commercial bargains with them, helping politician families become rich, that they're going to get favorable treatment. And nobody does this better than the Chinese government. And Joe Biden has been a major recipient of that kind of largesse from them. In the case of the Ukraine, Hunter Biden joins the board of Burisma, a troubled energy company in Ukraine, in the spring of 2014. It's important for people to know that he had no background in Ukraine. He had no background in energy policy. What I think he had was a father who was point person in the Obama administration on U.S. aid dollars flowing to Ukraine. Basically, we know from financial records that Hunter Biden was getting $83,000 a month from Burisma, really basically doing nothing. And the Chinese at the same time struck a $1.5 billion private equity deal with Hunter Biden's small private equity firm called Rosemont Seneca Partners. Again, Eric, he had no background in China, really no background in private equity, but his father, as with Ukraine, was also Obama administration point person on policy towards China.
Wow. So that was a quick summation. Welcome back to the program from Peter Schweizer. He is also the author of a few books, but namely the most recent one, Clinton Cash, which is, it's such a heavy lift, hard to get through, but it's worth it because it catalogs every single wrongdoing by the Clintons. They've gotten away with so much dirt. They should have stock in dirt. If dirt were a company, they would be the CEO and CIO, CFO, and they'd be the board, the whole board. It would be the three of them, the Clintons. So he's just outlining how Hunter Biden used his father's connections as vice president to get himself a posh job over in the Ukraine with no experience. But the connection that was needed was that he was Hunter Biden and he could pick up the phone and call his father at any time. And his father spent lots of time hanging around with Barack Obama, looking in mirrors, looking out of doors, slow jamming the news, hanging out and trying on each other's aviators. And he knew that the Ukrainians knew if we want a direct line to the presidency of the United States, Hunter Biden, let's hire him, pay him a good amount of money, then we have access. That's the kind of corruption that's being spread around the world by politicians here in this country who aren't above selling this country out. They're not above selling us out. And when I say this country, that's you. That's me, because our tax dollars let them do what they do. Our votes put them where they are. And then after they've gotten our tax dollars and they're in their positions, they're just like, hey, open season for me. How can I enrich myself? All right. So I saw this whole thing about the State Department issuing a directive that you cannot fly the you can't fly the American flag or the pride flag on America or some drama like that. And I accidentally closed out our call screen software thingy. The State Department, basically, they don't have a problem with pride flags so much as they have a problem with any other flag besides the flag of the United States being flown over our embassy. Now, here's my problem with it. First of all, these people are like a mafia where they literally feel as if they have the right to say, you know what? If you don't like the pride flag, we're going to rake you over the coals. So they have this litmus test. They ask you about the pride flag and see what you answer. If you answer properly, then everything's fine. If you don't answer properly, then, woe be to you. How dare you think you're going to, have your own opinion about this? So I want to listen to this audio. The pride flags are a-flying. This State Department lady, she knew she was going to be asked about this. She was prepared. But what I find so disturbing is the nature of the questioning. Listen to the reporter as he's it's like almost threatening the way he's talking to her. And by the way, you can call in 866-963-2037, 866-963-2037. Take a listen. That's number 4.
The LGBTQ flag on the embassies. Can you explain the position of the State Department on that, on both inside the embassies and on the outside?
Sure. I think Pride Month that we're in right now was celebrated around the world by many State Department employees, by many embassies. The Secretary has the position that, as it relates to the flagpole, that only the American flag should be flown there. But he, of course, as he said in his congressional testimony, respects the dignity of every individual. And I think all of you can do a simple, easy Google or Twitter search and see the pictures of members, embassies, and members, ambassadors, people of the Foreign Service celebrating Pride throughout the world.
The displays that we have seen of the LGBTQ flag, the colors, the pennants, banners, those are not in violation of any kind of edict or order, are they? So what this idea that there's some kind of revolt among diplomats in the embassies? Is there anything that these are in violation? I mean, I'm not quite sure.
There's no violation that I'm. No.
So as long as it's not on the flag pole that flies the American flag, the Secretary or nobody else in this building has any issue with it. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
So as long as it's not on the flagpole, nobody here has any issue with it. Correct? In other words, I dare you to say you got a problem with it, because we'll take you down like an antelope in the wild. You're going down if you don't agree with us that every person has dignity. How does flying the flag equate to people having dignity? And why don't black people have a flag? That's my question. Black people are missing out. All these little black activists who are running around and everything they do is about people being black and getting respect for this and that. They're missing the boat. Apparently, flying the flag for the Pride Month celebrations, it's the do or die moment. You either fly it or you get raked over the coals. You get what for not bowing down to what they consider to be one of their sacred cows. It's abortion and all this pride garbage. And every time you hear me say pride, see a little angry person with buck teeth and their fingers up in the quote finger quotation. And if that makes you laugh, thank you for laughing. I enjoy your merriment. That's a part of what I'm here for. So let me just, we're going to go to the phones in a second. 866-963-2037, 866-963-2037. So just in case you're wondering where the Catholic Church stands on this, because they've been really wishy-washy on a whole bunch of stuff, they're coming out strong again. After the bishop made his statements about people not celebrating Pride Month, here comes the Vatican. A Vatican department has issued a sweeping denunciation of so-called gender theory and affirmed the principles of human dignity, difference, and complementarity. Quote, in all such theories, from the most moderate to the most radical, there is agreement that one's gender ends up being viewed as more important than being male or female sex. This is the Congregation for Catholic Education writing on June 10th in a new document entitled Male and Female, He Created Them. The effect of this move is chiefly to create a cultural and ideological revolution driven by relativism, and secondarily a juridical revolution, since such beliefs claim specific rights for the individual and across society. Thank you. Thank you. as the little one says, thank you, next. I'm ready. I'm ready for more. I'm ready for the Vatican to continue to put out truth on this kind of stuff. They said that there is a need to reaffirm the metaphysical roots of sexual difference as an anthropological refutation of attempts to negate the male-female duality of human nature from which the family is generated. Come on. Those are fighting words. Let's do it. All right, Tyrone in Oklahoma, thank you for calling the show today.
All right, thanks so much. My deal is we ought to use what the progressives use, their terminology. I remember Obama always talking about, this is not what America is about.
Mm-hmm.
The flag is enough on its own. It represents freedom. It represents speech. It represents inclusivity. It represents different ideas. We don't need a added flag there. That is not what America is about. America is not about coercion. America is not forcing people to bow down to what they don't believe. America is not about forcing someone to say a man is a woman just because they say that. America is about free speech. It's about ideas. It's about freedom. It's not about oppression. And try to say that that's what we represent. We don't represent that. That is a fallacy to even think that they have to be inclusive. They talk about hate speech. They're the ones being hateful because they hate America, and that's what I had to say.
Tyrone, perfectly put. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon. He's right. The flag that needs to fly over the embassies is the American flag. And guess what? This isn't about hating anybody, but not everybody in America believes in celebrating pride, as they call it. Quote fingers, bucktooth person, fingers in the air. See it in your mind. And if the person is comical, there you go. You should be giggling right now. This is a ridiculous situation in which you cannot win. You cannot win with these people because flying the flag really isn't enough. You have to actually tell them that you agree with this garbage. And if you don't agree with it, then you're a bigot, you're a homophobe. In other words, you hate or you're afraid. Nobody over here is full of hate and nobody's afraid. In fact, it's quite the opposite. People in America are standing up because we're sick to death of being told what we can and cannot think and believe, how our rights are subjugated to those who have whatever going on with themselves, and how in any case, no matter what you believe, if you're a Christian, you're wrong. No, we're not wrong. Not only are we not wrong, we don't have any desire to be characterized or have our speech truncated or twisted in ways where they can try to make it seem as if we're saying one thing when the truth is all we're saying is everyone's free to celebrate whatever they want, honestly. But to force government entities like state departments and embassies to kind of bow down and acknowledge this so-called movement, it's not right. It's not the right way to go about doing this. Andy in Georgia. Hey, thanks for calling the show today. Oh, looks like we lost him. Okay. Lewis in Virginia. Thanks for calling the show today.
I realize I'm doubling back to a previous subject, Omar Ilhan.
Mm-hmm.
Something I have read is, in addition to it being illegal in this country to marry your sibling, I understand it's also illegal to marry just for the sake of getting somebody into the country for immigration.
True.
And I haven't heard that mentioned lately.
You are
so
so right.
Broken that law also with what she did.
Yes.
Just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Lewis, for bringing that up. And so my problem with her marrying her brother and not getting called out on it is obviously the moral implications. But the secondary, like, why would she marry her brother? To subvert our immigration system. No wonder she's for illegal immigration. She's a participant in that. If she got her brother into the country through marriage, then that is her participating in illegally immigrating people into the country. It's immigration, well, subversion. She's breaking the law. That's what I'm saying. Kay in Texas. Hey, thanks for calling the show today.
Thank you for talking to me.
Sure.
Regarding the children in Mexico, I was listening to the lady saying that they're being rented.
Mm-hmm.
They're being rented from the cartel who is abducting them from many people.
Wow. So they're kidnapping the kids.
The people who are bringing them across may or may not be kidnapping them, But a lot of them are kidnapped children, and I can give you the name and phone numbers of the Mexican missionaries that we have that are giving me that information.
Wow. So the answer here is obviously they wouldn't be doing that if they couldn't just cross them into the country under this asylum scheme and if our border wasn't open, right?
Right. The drug cartel is making a lot of money.
Unbelievable. And what can we do to stop it? Well, obviously, the easiest thing would be for Congress to come together and just say, this is enough is enough. We're putting an end to this. Kay in Texas, thank you for calling and for the work you're doing with the missionaries down in Mexico. Thank you for that. We need the work that Kay is doing in working with the missionaries to try to put it's the other side. It's the caring side, the part about America that no one wants to talk about, the work that Kay is doing and others. I am so wanting to be strictly factual here. There have been many times we've talked about immigration on the show. We have railed against what has been going on. And I just want to put our slides back up here. If you're new to the program, check out these slides on the YouTube stream or online someplace where we have the show. Goals of President Trump's immigration reform. It talks about attracting, retaining the best and brightest, protecting the American worker, modernizing our ports of entry, increasing security and speed to fully secure the border, resources for 100% scanning, stopping drugs and counterfeit goods, quicker trade facilitation, self-sustaining revenue, and enforcing the law. And the president isn't about this because he hates immigrants or hates immigration. We have a global race for talent, and we should be looking for the very best people to come into our country, not people who can't contribute. And I know Democrats have made a business out of saying that anybody and everybody should come, but that's just not the way immigration was set up to work into this country. We need the best and the brightest. And we will continue to help the South American countries through USAID and other means. Billions of dollars we're pumping into their countries. We can't do it all. All right, if you're leaving us now, God bless from the heartland. I'm Stacy Washington, host of Stacy on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk. I'm also the Second Amendment Foundation's Journalist of the Year and Tweeter extraordinaire at Stacy on the Right. God bless. If you're sticking around, onenewsnow.com coming up next.
There's a lot happening around us. That's why Christians need to stand strong on family values and morality. Hi, I'm Ray Rooney, editor of The Stand, a blog from the American Family Association. The Stand has timely, carefully written articles on relevant cultural issues that you can quickly forward to others. Visit afa.net/The Stand.
Truth, wisdom, empowered urban family talk. A ministry of the American Family Association.
For American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. The presidential election is more than a year away, but the two men that many experts think will campaign for your vote traded jabs at one another today. Speaking to supporters in Iowa, former Vice President Joe Biden called President Trump a threat.
I mean, it's bizarre, and it's damaging. And so I think he's genuinely a threat to our core values, and he's a threat to our standing in the world.
President Trump said he's not worried about Biden.
No, I'd rather run against, I think, Biden than anybody. I think he's the weakest mentally, and I like running against people that are weak mentally. I think Joe is the weakest up here. The other ones have much more energy.
More campaign coverage at onenewsnow.com. The Chinese national accused of trying to enter Mar-a-Lago uninvited while President Trump was vacationing will be representing herself at her upcoming trial. Evan Brown reports from Miami.
A federal judge in Fort Lauderdale says Chinese citizen Yuxing Zhang will be allowed to act as her own lawyer when she is made to stand trial for lying to federal agents about why she tried to enter the Mar-a-Lago property while President Trump was in town. Agents found her to have a number of cell phones and electronic eavesdropping devices. The judge told Chang she's making a bad decision by representing herself and ordered a public defender act as standby counsel. Trial is set for August. In Miami, Eben Brown, Fox News.
Salesforce is a software company used by many for-profit and nonprofit corporations. But Justin Danoff of the National Center for Public Policy Research says Salesforce Chief Executive Officer Mark Benioff is a social engineer acting as a CEO.
He is kind of the leader in pulling companies to the left to engage on social issues, such as, gay marriage. And then what they've also been engaged in is anti-religious freedom activities. They were one of the big companies that rose up against now Vice President Pence, then Governor Pence of Indiana, when that state tried to pass a religious freedom law in 2015.
As a result, Danoff went to the Salesforce shareholder meeting to ask for a politically diverse board.
I said, look, at any company with a balanced board of directors, and by balanced, I mean balanced in thought, there's no way you would be running around engaging in social engineering. You would be selling your software. Interestingly, one of the board members came up to me afterwards and said, look, you're more right than you know, and I'm in complete agreement with you, and perhaps if we had balance, we could change what goes on here. It's clear that he was a conservative, offended by what Mark does, but he's clearly a lone voice in the board of directors, and I'm not going to identify the individual lest, his house get mobbed by the liberals, who find out that he might be a conservative working in Silicon Valley.
Danoff has gone to 7 company shareholder meetings this year to ask for politically diverse boards. There's a new law in New Jersey meant to keep hotel housekeeping staff safe. Chris Foster explains.
All hotels in New Jersey with at least 100 rooms will have to provide cleaning staff with wearable panic buttons that contact building security. The first law like it in the country. It's under consideration in some other states, and some hotel chains are doing it on their own. The New Jersey law takes effect in January. Last year, a room cleaner at Bally's in Atlantic City was pushed into a room and sexually assaulted. Chris Foster, Fox News.
And the investigation continues into that deadly helicopter crash atop a high-rise in New York City. Here's Gernal Scott.
The National Transportation Safety Board is taking the lead in finding the cause of this crash. Pilot Tim McCormick died when his helicopter on a rainy day crashed on the roof of a 7th Avenue skyscraper. Air safety investigator Doug Brazy says the helicopter did not have voice or flight data recorders, but
there is instrumentation and helicopter systems that do have memory in them and the capability to record. We're searching for those.
Other factors the NTSB plans to examine include the weather and the pilot's toxicology tests. Brazy says a preliminary report should be available in about 2 weeks.
That's it for this hour. Find more news at onenewsnow.com.
Pastor D.
The Back to God movement always reminds people that we got to know who we are and whose we are. And we are children of the Most High God. Made in His image and likeness. That's what Genesis 1:26 says. Made in His image and likeness. So that means if Yeshua could walk on water, guess what? We can too.
Each weekday at 4 o'clock Central on Urban Family Talk. And let's get back to God. She's sharp, pointed, and insightful. This is Stacy on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
The first announced witness of the 116th Congress was Michael Cohen. The guy sits in prison today for lying to Congress. And now we got John Dean.
The last time I appeared before your committee was July 11, 1974, during the impeachment inquiry of Richard Nixon. Clearly, I'm not here today as a fact witness.
And now coming in to enlighten the Judiciary Committee on Obstruction of Justice.
I actually wrote a book about Mr. Bush and Mr. Cheney with the title Worse Than Watergate.
We would all do well to remember, if they can do it to a president, imagine what they can do to you and me. Imagine what they can do to regular citizens across this great country.
And now, Stacy Washington.
Hey there. Welcome back to the program. We have John York, PhD, with us this hour. He's going to talk about the Electoral College and everything that we're seeing with the Democrats trying to subvert it. He's such an expert. It's always great to have him on the show. We will also continue to take calls. Just as a side note, did you hear those congressional ingrates, AOC and Ilhan Omar and others? They're proposing an additional pay raise for congressional members. You know, they already make $178,000. If they're in leadership, they get an extra 25 or so for that. What is with these people? Anyway, I say they can't get it. What we should do is we should change it so that Congress can't get a pay increase unless it goes to the vote of the American people, and it would be put on with the presidential election. So they couldn't get a raise, but every 4 years, and the American people had to vote on it. Imagine how they would behave if that were the case. Instead, they get to vote a pay raise for themselves. They just bring it up. And then if leadership thinks it's okay, they vote on it, and they always say yes to themselves. Fantastic. All right, let's go to the phones, 866-963-2037, 866-963-2037. Robert in Indiana. Hey, thanks for calling the show today.
Hi, Stacy. The rainbow has 7 colors, including indigo and violet, but this quote-unquote pride flag has 6 colors. They substitute purple, so it's a counterfeit. It's also the number of man. So, if I were probably one of those people asked about Pride Month, I would say I celebrate humility. But once you realize you have humility, it means you lost it.
Right. Yeah. If you're running around saying you're humble, you're not. I get what you're saying. It's interesting that when you're describing the flag, you're saying it's not the traditional rainbow. They've actually changed it. And it probably has some specific meaning that I don't even care to know. But it's fascinating analysis there. Thank you, Robert, for sharing that with us. I got to say, it's not the right thing for them to hijack the flag. It's not the right thing for them to, take it and do whatever they're doing with it. And what I would like to see them do, what I'd like to see all of them do, is just pick something else. The flag, it's dumbfounding that this is what we're dealing with. That we don't get a chance to kind of change things over and put it into a light that is accurate. This is perversion. We shouldn't be flying flags to celebrate perversion. Sorry, not sorry. So let's go to, so you might have heard that John Dean has gone before the Congress. Representative Jim Jordan actually was questioning him today. And what's funny about him being there is that he's actually a criminal himself. Yet he's a part of the kabuki theater that the Democrats are putting on to try to make it as if there's an actual impeachment that's going to occur. They know they're not going to be able to impeach the president. They can't get it through the Senate. But they will continue to interview people to say horrible things about the president of the United States and anyone who's associated with him. So let's listen to number 5.
The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At a memorial event for David Hamburg, Speaker Pelosi and I had a chance to discuss impeachment. Mr. Dean, who wrote that?
I did.
1 month ago, May 11th, 2019, haven't we been too long in not giving Trump a meaningful moniker? Should it be deranged Don, deadbeat Don, demagogue Don? Thoughts, please, comments. Mr. Dean, who wrote that?
I assume that was mine.
It was yours. 19 days ago, May 22nd, 2019, there was this. We are witnessing Trump's massive cover-up of his criminal behavior as POTUS. He is incapable of accomplishing anything. Mr. Dean, you know who wrote that?
I suspect that was me again.
It was you. I want to focus on that last sentence. As POTUS, as President of the United States, he, Donald Trump, is incapable of accomplishing anything. When you made that statement, Mr. Dean, what did you have in mind? You thinking about the 3.2% economic growth rate we had the last quarter? Thinking about the fact we got the lowest unemployment in 50 years? How about the fact the hostages are back from North Korea? Maybe you were thinking about this. When you said the President of the United States was incapable of doing anything, were you thinking about the fact that the embassy is now in Jerusalem?
So he then goes down this list of the president's accomplishments. And you got to love Jim Jordan because he does not play around when it comes to people coming before his committee and lying. He relishes doing his research and then taking you to the woodshed. Now, the clip is about 6 or 7 minutes long, and I will definitely post it online if you want to catch it for yourself. But I just thought it was instructive that that's how he started out. And it didn't get much better for John Dean after that. This is what has to happen when leftists try to put their little old criminal selves, and no, I'm not saying all leftists are criminals, but that guy is. When you try to put his little criminal self up there as a credible witness, they couldn't find anybody else to come before their committee. If that's the best they've got, then he deserves to be raked over the coals. Not physically, metaphorically. Raked over the coals. Yes, I said it. So now I want to pivot over to Kellyanne Conway. So, okay. She's always awesome. Like, she's always got way more to say than the minutes they allocate for her time slot whenever she goes on, whether it's, CNN and her fights with Jake Tapper, or any of them that she goes up against. She's just like a buzzsaw. They don't even see her coming. And they should know she's going to come on there and do that. Now here she's in friendly territory, and she's talking about Nancy Pelosi losing control of the Democrats. And this is so important going into 2020, because the way that the Democrats can get as close as possible to possibly taking back the White House is if they are one unit marching together in unison towards a goal, which is winning the White House. They can't do that because Nancy Pelosi, she has the gavel still. She has the red coat from wherever that fancy coat was from. She's got the looks, the outfits, all that stuff. Access to the media, no problem. But she's no longer in charge of the conference. Check it out. It's number one.
And it's owing to the president's leadership, Secretary of State Pompeo and Vice President Pence. They really hammered out a great agreement with Mexico. And there are new features to this because look at the last week in May. We had apprehensions of 5,800 people, or crossings of 5,800 people in one day at the border. If that happened every single day, you'd be close to 2 million illegals coming this way just this year alone. So Mexico took the president's tariff threat very seriously, and they're starting to take enforcement at their southern border seriously.
All right, so listen. Nancy Pelosi is just, so have you ever been in a situation where you start out, and this reminds me of the conversation we had this morning at Bible study, which I will try to share as well. Okay. So 2 things. First of all, have you ever been in a situation where you start out, let's say it's like a project or something. I'm thinking of something pretty specific for myself, but let's say it's a project. You start out and everything looks good, and you've got your plans and everything's all laid out. You've got a timeline, you've got a budget, and you're just going to do this thing, right? You're going to do this thing. So you get started and everything is going according to plan until it isn't. And then all of a sudden, one part of the plan that really didn't seem like it was a big deal has erupted into a major stopping point where nothing else can get done. So you have to address this problem. And the problem is expensive, and it's potentially budget busting, derailing the rest of the situation. So just like 3 or 4 nights before, you had your head resting on that pillow and you were thinking beautiful thoughts and you knew your plan was awesome. And now the plan is kaput. It's busted. There's no way you're going forward without another infusion of cash or a miracle or someone who will do the work for free. And all you're thinking about is just that few nights ago when nothing had happened and you didn't, the train wreck hadn't occurred, and you want to almost go back there. You're just like desperate to just maybe, can I get back there? Is there any way I could go back? I mean, how can I make things work still? And I just have to kind of imagine, because Nancy Pelosi does like to have things in an orderly fashion. Yeah, the Democrats are wild and, crazy, and, it's like a wild, wild west over there. But it's like that on the Republican side, too. How many times have we had things that were supposed to happen, like the repeal of Obamacare, for example, derailed by rogue Republicans who refused to participate in the process, even though they promised to, they'd run on it, they'd raise billions of dollars on it, but they just wouldn't do it. It is what is happening. That description of what I just described is what is happening to Nancy Pelosi, but on a scale that is just, at least order of magnitude greater than what anything we can even fathom. These 3 new Congress people who've been given this outsized bully pulpit by the media: Ilhan Omar, marrier of her brother; Rashida Tlaib, cursor extraordinaire; and AOC, barista / business school graduate who never saw a balance sheet she could understand. The 3 of them have literally derailed any possibility of Nancy being able to put together a winning agenda. And, you know, that's part of what she does. That's part of the reason why she was able to whip together the votes and bring people in who normally would not want to support her for the speakership. What she promised was, I've ushered this conference through to victory on the presidential side before, and I can do it again. I can get together our disparate factions of individuals, and not only will I get them underneath the tent, but I'll get them to the boardroom table. We'll all sit there, and if I have to, I'll strong arm them into agreeing with our agenda so that we can take back the White House. She also inferred when she was, you know, remember when it was a lead up to them voting on who would be the speaker, and she was the presumptive speaker, but she had not yet actually been voted in. And she made a couple of statements to the media. She said, you know, I don't foresee impeachment in the future. I won't rule anything out, but it's not something that I see as being on the agenda of the Democrats moving forward. Do you remember that? I remember it like it was yesterday, because shortly after that, the president even said out of all of the people who were contending for the speakership, he would prefer to see Nancy Pelosi. And I took that as, you know, we'll be adversaries, we'll joust, but I've donated to your campaigns before, Nancy. You've been to Mar-a-Lago before, Nancy. You've been to Trump Tower, to the Golden Penthouse before, Nancy. If there's anything we can do, it's cobble together an agenda where we can work on at least one or two things. He even said on infrastructure and cobbling together a deal for the Dreamers on immigration. I think there's some room for us to negotiate and possibly come to some agreements. So she gets the speaker's gavel. And then before she can start horse trading and wrangling with these people, the three new Congress critters step up to their podiums and begin to tear down any possibility of her actually doing that. So she thought, well, I will go and make a few good comments, a few statements here. I'll keep doing a few things. I'll keep saying a few things in the media to kind of send out these warning flares. I'll send out a few warning flares. I'll make sure these people understand that when it comes to the business, I am the business, right? That's Nancy. She's the business. So she did. Remember, she went to a conference and she said, there are only three of them and there are many of us. Some people don't understand how the levers of power work. Remember, she made a few statements and they were directed at those three. But what the three did was, have you ever seen a toddler out in the Walmart or someplace and the mom starts counting backwards and the toddler just throws their head back against the linoleum and keeps on kicking and screaming like, that counting ain't working on me. You better come over here and pick me up. And I'm going to scream all the way out of here, but you're not buying anything today. Or you're going to buy that, but you're going to listen to me scream the whole time. Have you never seen it go down? That is what we are watching. Nancy Pelosi is the mom counting down, and those three they don't care about her counting. They want impeachment. And it's not just those three. It's Jerry Nadler and others. They're out there. They've got the monetary backing from these rich, what's his name, Tom Steyer. He's out there pumping money into anybody who wants impeachment. Look, I never thought I'd see it. To be perfectly candid with you, I never in my life thought I would see a day when Nancy Pelosi could not make Democrats do what she told them to do. It's a stunning development. I don't feel sorry for her, though. All right, when we get back, we'll have John York from the Heritage Foundation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. You know, I'm asked often what my favorite part of the Holy Land tour is. And that's like choosing between your children, right? That's very hard to pick just one place to see or to visit that's the most special. But to me, it's the boat ride on the Sea of Galilee, I guess, is number one. That's just a very special day because you know that's exactly where Jesus was, the Sea of Galilee. We're seeing the same terrain that Jesus saw. But there's so much more to our visit to the Holy Land, our trip there in March 2020. We'll go to Bethlehem, Jerusalem, Jericho, Nazareth, and on and on. If you want more information on the tour to Israel, go to twholyland.com. That's twholyland.com.
This is Viewpoints with Kirby Anderson. How many cherries should be in a frozen cherry pie? In case you're wondering, the Food and Drug Administration has regulations governing the number, the weight, and the kind of cherries that can be placed into a frozen pie. The reason I know this is due to a decision by the FDA to deregulate the cherry pie market. Raymond March of the Independent Institute goes into some detail about the numerous regulations concerning frozen cherry pies. Not only do the regulations mandate the percent of cherries by weight, but also mandate the percent of cherries that may be deemed to be blemished, and there are even regulations that define what is considered frozen, what constitutes a blemish, and even how much crust must cover the pies. President Trump pledged to eliminate a significant number of FDA regulations. The regulations surrounding the cherry pies illustrate why this is important. Corporations like Sara Lee are in the business of producing food products that consumers will buy. If their cherry pies have too few cherries or don't look good, people will stop buying them. They don't need the FDA to protect them with pages of regulations. The FDA should spend its time regulating drugs and other medical products that consumers cannot easily evaluate. Bakers and food producers often accept and even promote regulations that may give them a competitive advantage, but not in this case. Lee Sanders of the American Bakers Association was hopeful that the cherry pie standard will finally be revoked. You know it is time for regulations to go when even special interests want them eliminated. He also acknowledged the deregulation would not make a big difference in the industry. That's because consumers and the market system will keep bakers and food producers accountable. If you don't make a good cherry pie, people won't buy it. I'm Kirby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For a free copy of Kirby's booklet, A Biblical View on Socialism, go to viewpoints.info/socialism. That's viewpoints.info/socialism.
You can watch a live stream of the show on Facebook or YouTube at Stacy on the Right. Now, back to the show on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being here today. Check us out at onenewsnow.com, urbanfamilytalk.com, and afr.net. It's my pleasure to welcome John York to the program. John is a PhD. He's a policy analyst at the B. Kenneth Simon Center for Principles and Politics at the Heritage Foundation. Frequent guest of the program. Super fun to have you on today, John. Thank you.
Great to be here again.
So let's talk about this. Electoral College. What do we need to know now? I feel like stuff that's already supposed to have been settled, everything's unsettled again.
Yeah, it does feel like that. So the Electoral College, really ever since 2016, Democrats have been pretty upset about it because Hillary Clinton, as everyone probably knows, won by a slim margin the national popular vote. She got the most votes around the country, but she lost the Electoral College. And as is probably pretty clear to everyone, after hearing after hearing, the Democrats haven't quite gotten over their loss. So this is really another way of kind of focusing on the rules of the game and changing the rules of the game rather than changing their approach towards areas of the country that they seem not very interested in appeasing or even listening to.
So let's unpack this a little bit more. I have read a lot of stories about, well, first of all, 1/4 of the entire population of California is thought to be illegal aliens, and they give illegal aliens driver's licenses and things like that. And so it is not out of the question or beyond the pale to assume that there might have been some voter fraud or illegal voting going on in some of these states where Hillary Clinton won the popular vote.
Right. Yeah, I think that's absolutely a fair assumption. I mean, Democrats will often say, oh, there isn't any voter fraud. There's no cases of that. Of course, there are plenty of cases of that. Our Hans von Spakovsky has found a lot of cases, and they're cataloged by him here at the Heritage Foundation. But also, it's difficult to find voter fraud when you're not looking. And a lot of the times, it's just the FEC has a difficult time digging up the documents and going through the difficult process of rooting out cases of voter fraud. That doesn't mean it's not happening. It'd be kind of weird to assume it didn't. I mean, a lot's on the line during an election, and given that it's pretty hard to detect voter fraud, it's pretty hard to imagine that people don't engage in it.
Yeah, I mean, the stories I've seen, it's been as benign as, someone moving and voting in the new place where they live. But then when they're home on vacation, there being an election and they vote in that too. So, home on their old home. So it's as benign as that, or it's cases where people have been shown to have voted in multiple locations and it's intentional. They literally say, I had to make sure that, remember one person said, I had to make sure that Barack Obama had a chance. And so she voted in multiple jurisdictions and she was convicted. The fines and the actual punishments are really, really light. It's like a wrist slap, $120 fine, no jail time. Sometimes they don't even get, like the fine is suspended. So I don't see people getting prosecuted in ways that are a deterrent for election fraud.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, that's something that needs to be addressed, and what would be better is, instead of going after people on the back end, which should be done to deter people, on the front end, ensuring that people have to provide a real sort of identification, a photo identification to vote would be a first step. I mean, allowing people, and the Democrats want to do the exact opposite thing, which tells you exactly who they think is going to benefit from voter fraud. And all you have to do is just look where the Democrats stand, and that's a very clear indication of who stands to benefit. And they're wholly against any sort of check or review or investigation of who's supposed to be voting where and how many times.
So let's talk.
They win 100% of the dead person vote, I think, almost in every election.
Oh my goodness!
They have that cornered.
Right. So just imagine, because I caught some of Bill Maher's been on a couple of shows. He went on Chris Cuomo's program, and he said a lot of things that you know how it is. I'm sure this happens to you too, John. You're sitting there and you're listening, and you can feel your face or your neck get hot. You're thinking, I can't take it. I'm like, can I make it through this interview? And so that's how I was feeling. And he literally said that even though we have high employment, and that's a good thing, look at the jobs that people have. People aren't really employed gainfully because they have to have more than one job, which I just said on the show. Maybe it was yesterday. I don't even know what day it is. I said in the past 72 hours, I said, our son wants to work 32 hours at his summer job. He can't because of Obamacare. So he needs a second job. My son is not unique in this aspect. He's working at entry level because he's only 18. This is what Americans are going through. Is that because of Donald Trump, or is that because of Barack Obama, the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and their Obamacare law? But he's blaming that fact that people need more than one job if they're in the entry part of the market. He's blaming that on Trump.
Right. Well, this is something the Democrats are doing on every front. I mean, they own a lot of this crisis. I mean, Republicans had control of Congress and the presidency for only 2 years. I think it's pretty clear where they focused their energy on the tax cut, which it did prove to be a big benefit. And Trump has been deregulating. So to blame every aspect of the job market on him, especially when landmark legislation, as you mentioned, was passed under Obama, seems crazy and is transparent in its motive, I think.
And so the way that connects up to this whole electoral thing is the issue that they're having is that they keep winning the popular vote, but not the Electoral College. And that's because, number one, Hillary didn't campaign in areas where electoral votes would have made the difference to her winning. And beyond her not campaigning, there's this huge thing, John, that they have going on, which is they alienate large swaths of the country. They called millions, tens of millions of Americans were called deplorables by Hillary Clinton. And then they doubled down on it and agreed that those people were deplorable. Since then, the Democrats have said that white women are to blame for Trump being the president, as if white women don't have the right to vote for him, and that old white people are to blame for all of the problems in this country, even though old white people don't exclusively vote for Democrats.
Yeah, it's a weird way of winning hearts and minds, going after people and saying they're deplorable and blaming them for, I don't know, anything you can name, destroying the planet in 12 years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And insulting them.
It is strange they lose these people, and the lesson they learn is exactly the opposite lesson any sensible person would learn. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, it seems to be that the logical solution would be to do the opposite of what Hillary Clinton had done, would focus on the areas of the country you need to win and focus on the people who are really hurting that your policies haven't addressed. Instead, they're doing the very opposite and running further and further towards their coastal elite base and trying to change the rules so that becomes a winning strategy, which is, I hope that doesn't happen. That would be terrible for the country.
It would be, but I think there's even so for all of these different things, because I call it casting around for a way to win. It's whether it's the Electoral College or the National Popular Vote Compact, which they're still pushing forward with that, or the basically forcing open of the southern border and leaving it open so that they can have people who are illegal come into the country, or their refusal to address chain migration or revamping of our refugee type, inflows. Everything that they're doing points to, they talk about packing the Supreme Court. I know that's in your wheelhouse. All of these things point to them saying, look, we know we can't win on the issues. We're not even trying anymore. We'll win by hook or by crook. And these are all the different avenues by which we will continue to dominate politics without providing anything to anyone.
Right. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, thinking institutionally is a tough thing to do. Distancing yourself from your immediate advantage and thinking, what's the best institutional arrangement? Thank God our founders didn't quite know who would be in what party. There weren't parties developed yet. Now it's almost, in every case, the advantage of the party you're in, at least this is true for Democrats, ends up dictating how you feel about policy X, Y, or Z. Immigration. Does it make sense to have an open border? No, of course it doesn't. Why do they support that? Oh, well, because these are going to be Democratic voters. Why do they support? Does it make sense for the largest, most populous cities to be the sole focus of any presidential election? Of course it doesn't. That's crazy. We have a huge country, and how long is quote-unquote flyover country going to stand for that? But why do they support it? Oh, because they can't win the Electoral College over the last election cycle. And on down the line. I mean, it's not so hard, Like there's a principle, Occam's razor. You peel down to the easiest possible explanation. And the easiest possible explanation in every case is the Democrats support things that favor their party. It's really no more complicated than that.
But what does happen? I mean, let's play suppose it happens for a second, John. What does happen? Like, let's say they were able to somehow cobble together 270 Electoral College votes out of states and get the National Popular Vote Compact passed. Then what happens? Like, what do Americans who are now disenfranchised, totally disenfranchised from smaller states, less populous states, their vote is now no longer one vote, one citizen. What do they do then?
So if the National Popular Interstate Compact was to pass, so just to back up a second, those states that have signed on to that compact will cast their electoral college votes, not for the winner of their state vote, but for the winner of the nationwide vote overall, whoever gets the most votes in the nation as opposed to who gets the most votes in their state. If there's enough states that sign on to this compact, let's say 270 is generally the number if you have two candidates, then whomever carried the national popular vote would win, right? Because this group of states would throw all of their votes behind the winner. So they've gotten pretty close. There's nearly enough states there at 189. Like I said, it takes usually 270 to win. Oregon state legislature has agreed to sign on to this national popular vote. They have 7. So that would make the national popular vote states 74 electoral college votes short of what they would need to swing an election. So that would be very bad. If they were to get the determinative number of electoral college votes, then this interstate compact would get challenged in court for sure, and it would be struck down because there's a clear provision in the Constitution that says the Congress has to validate any interstate compact, and interstate compact is right in the name of this proposal. But there's still a major danger because getting Congress to approve compacts between the states, a compact like this, is a lot easier than the route you would ordinarily have to go to get rid of the Electoral College. That is to say, the amendment process, which would be nearly impossible. So
Which
it's a
is
big
why they
danger,
do it.
Something to watch out for, but there would be a legal challenge that would likely strike this down absent congressional action.
Now, would you see the Democrats on the Supreme Court actually going against this move? Because even though the Democrats on the Supreme Court are, in my opinion, they're liberals, they're hard on the left, wouldn't this even be a stretch for them?
I think so. I mean, it would be. I hesitate to give liberals good advice, but it would have been much smarter for the states to be a little more cloaked about their intents here. The fact that the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact has Interstate Compact right in the name makes it a pretty blatant violation of the Compact Clause in the Constitution, which forbids such interstate compacts, like I said, absent congressional approval. So I don't see how any clear and honest reading of the Constitution would allow this to proceed. Again, like I said, it's easier than an amendment to get Congress to vote for something just on a regular majority vote. But, if this went before the Supreme Court absent congressional action, it's a clear-cut case, even for the Democrats, I would think.
Okay, so the congressional action that you're talking about would be that the House of Representatives would have to take an action to basically approve this action, the National Popular Vote, and then it would have to go through the Senate.
The president would have to agree to it too. So Democrats would have to have total control.
Right. So first they have to win the White House and the House and the Senate. Then when they have all three, they have to bring forward the National Popular Vote Compact, Interstate Compact, which is unconstitutional, survive a court challenge to the Supreme Court, and then congressional action that would be signed into law by that Democratic president, and still hope that the 400 to 600 million guns in this country weren't mobilized to basically just tear this whole thing asunder. Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, that's right. And first, they would have to get a few more states to sign on. And there's already, even though Oregon has kind of signed on to this, there are a number of Democratic states, or usually blue states, that have already not signed on. Nevada's Senate, their state legislature, wanted to join the Popular Vote Interstate Compact, and their governor vetoed it, saying that this could diminish the role of smaller states like Nevada, which is exactly correct. Maine's House rejected the bill to join on. So there's already, Oregon aside, sort of the tide is beginning to turn as small states look at this and say, ooh, this isn't just a way of signaling that we're populists and we're really upset about the outcome of the 2016 election. This could really happen. How would this affect our state? And states like Nevada are saying, and Maine are saying, maybe not such a great policy.
I'm so glad somebody's looking at the thing instead of just signing on because Democrats brought it to the fore. You know what? You're always awesome, John York, PhD policy analyst for the Heritage Foundation. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, talk to you again soon. All right, we'll be back with more Stacy on the Right after this.
She was a baby girl left abandoned on a doorstep in China. Our friends met her in that orphanage that had saved her life, and they adopted her. And believe me, she's not an orphan anymore. There are a lot of folks who have felt orphaned for much of their lives, either left behind or left alone. Maybe you know the feeling. Well, just like that little girl, someone went a long way to get you. Someone who chose you. He's adopted a lot of spiritual orphans into his family, and he's ready to adopt you too. Jesus said, I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. We've been cut off from the Heavenly Father by choosing to run a life that He was supposed to run, so we feel spiritually fatherless. But God's Son came all the way from heaven to that awful cross to pay for your sins and give you the chance to be His. You can belong to Him by saying, Jesus, I'm yours. It's something we'd love to help you do. Call us at 888-NEED-HIM or go to chataboutjesus.com. You will never feel orphaned again.
8 Days of Hope needs volunteers to help families hurt by severe flooding in Fort Smith, Arkansas. The first day of serving families is June 13th. Visit 8daysofhope.com to let them know how you can help. Here's 8 Days of Hope President Steve Tybert.
We're looking for people who just want to serve others. You know, you don't have to be super gifted. Every disaster gives an opportunity for a believer to share a glimpse of Jesus Christ. On a moment's notice, your life can change, and you don't know what to do, and all of a sudden you get a knock on your door, and there's a dozen volunteers that have come from all over the country, and homeowners usually, they just start to weep. They're so blown away that volunteers they don't even know would come to their house to help them. That's the hands and feet of Jesus Christ.
Volunteers must be 18 years or older. Food and lodging are provided. Be a part of assisting flood victims in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Learn more or sign up at 8daysofhope.com.
This is House Call for Health. There's good news in the war on cancer, but that good news comes at a cost. Nearly 17 million Americans are alive and coping with the diagnosis of cancer, and death rates have been falling over the past 25 years. But the treatments can be very expensive, even for patients with health insurance. The American Cancer Society, the National Cancer Institute, and the Centers for Disease Control looked at the doctor bills and found that cancer patients pay on average $1,000 a year in expenses not covered by insurance. By comparison, people who don't have cancer have an average out-of-pocket expense of $622 a year. The report finds that many cancer patients find themselves going into debt or filing for bankruptcy. And the authors note the financial burden can cause psychological stress, which is the last thing a cancer survivor needs. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health, I'm Anna Eliopoulos, Fox News.
Welcome back to Stacy on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Well, I think they just can't let the president have a win. I mean, I think the cold, hard reality is, even though almost none of my members were enthusiastic about the prospect of tariffs, you have to give the president credit. It worked. The threat of levying tariffs on Mexican goods coming in clearly got the government's attention down there, and the president deserves applause, not condemnation, for the outcome, which has a good chance of solving this crisis at the border. His other problem, is congressional Democrats who will not let us pass a supplemental appropriation to deal not with the wall, but with the humanitarian crisis down at the border. We passed a supplemental appropriation a couple of weeks ago dealing with storms in Puerto Rico and Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Nebraska, Iowa, and we tried to add to it a little under $5 billion to deal with this humanitarian crisis at the border, and they said, we won't pass it if you do that. So the president had two problems here. One was the Mexican government. He solved that. Now it's time to try to solve the problem with the Democrats. They need to step up, because even the New York Times said, give Trump the money. We're talking about the humanitarian crisis at the border.
Wow. So apparently that was Leader McConnell, by the way, if you didn't recognize his voice. Leader McConnell, Republican from the great state of Kentucky. He's a Senate Majority Leader, and he says that he was just expressing the truth about, there's not support in the conference, the Republican conference in the Senate, for tariffs. And interesting, Jeannie Partridge, who is a listener on the program, she actually chimed in a bit ago about how she sent an email to Senator Roy Blunt, and he replied that the tariffs are basically a tax on Missourians, Missouri farmers, Missouri constituents, and that he opposed them. Now, this doesn't mean that he specifically would have gone along with an attempt to force the president not to do the tariffs, but it sounded to me like they were kind of sending a warning shot out, like, hey, if you decide to do this, you're not going to have our support. In any case, now Mitch McConnell is congratulating the president on making a good deal with Mexico, but it remains to be seen whether or not Mexico will actually follow through. They're really great at agreeing to stuff. Now, I think it is important to note, as has been noted by the different audio bits that we've had here on the show today, that they sent someone up here immediately. They got some some jets smoking hot, pardon me, some jets, this jet engine smoking hot, and got themselves up here so they can have a chat. Awesome. That's what we want. But in the end, the rubber meets the road when we see the 6,000 troops, when we see the utter, like, we're not talking about let's slow down a little bit, it's 1,000 less. No, we're talking about stopping it. Stop the buses, stop the caravans, stop the invasion. If it doesn't stop, the tariffs should go on. And I don't mean the president tweeting at like 3 o'clock in the morning and then the tariffs going on in 6 months. I mean, they should just look up and be like, well, we just didn't have time to send the people down there, but tariffs are on. It should literally be, you know how it is when they do something electronically to your bank account or something like that? You just look in there and it's already done. That's how it should be. They either comply or the tariffs go on like that. Boom, tariffs are on. Now what you going to do? I know you ain't saying anything because you promised. And if you don't answer your promises, then we're going to put on the tariffs like we promised. How about that? So I wanted to give you guys one more thing. Okay, so a few people asked about donating, supporting the show, etc., especially when we were talking about the website upgrade, which is something that has really been a kind of bane of my existence, the website upgrade. It's just not happening, you guys. It's just hard to find people who will follow through and finish up and get stuff done. So, but anyway, I have a PayPal donation link that you can click through. I put it on the live stream on YouTube. I also put it on the live stream on Facebook. And I will also put it up on the Facebook, like a post by itself. Also for t-shirts, you can always click through to Teespring. You can find that link if you want t-shirts or mugs. That's on stacyontheright.com. It's a post there. You just scroll down, click on it, takes you straight to Teespring, and you can purchase, and the stuff comes directly to you. People are now receiving their items that they've ordered, so it's pretty cool. And so John York, PhD, when he was on the program, he mentioned the Interstate Compact. Now, you know what's so interesting about this, because I was Googling it or Binging it while he was talking, is, of course, we all know about the Interstate Compact. We learned about it when we were in high school. But these are the kind of things that you forget. Like, this does not stay top of mind, Interstate Compact. You're not thinking about the Interstate Compact. You're thinking about what you're cooking for dinner tonight. But I wanted to give you just a brief little summary of it because it's so awesome. It's Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, the Compact Clause. Now, if you look on Legal Dictionary, thefreedictionary.com, it says, the clause was meant to protect the supremacy of the federal government. While with this general principle as guidance, courts interpreted the clause to give Congress the power to nullify an interstate compact if it frustrated federal aims. But I like to go straight to Heritage, the Heritage Foundation. They always have really great answers on there. And it's great to get it from there because, you can kind of hold that they're willing to be held accountable for what's on their website. Like they actually monitor it, police it, keep it uptight. And they have a definition on there. And before I forget, because I'm trying to race through everything before the end of the show today. I got an email from a listener who says that their employees at Kroger, the grocery store chain, have new aprons that they have to wear, and the apron has a gay pride patch on it. So one of the employees, according to this, refused to wear it, confronted her manager. The manager said, wear it or quit. And so she quit. This is at the Kroger. So when I'm asking for the listening audience, we got just gobs of listeners in the Kroger portion of the country. Because Krogers, we actually have them in Missouri. We just don't have them in our major cities. They're in the smaller cities around Missouri, which I didn't realize until we went down to a smaller city. And I just drove by. I'm like, is that a Kroger? Because we used to shop at Kroger when we lived in Florida in Fort Walton Beach. That was my grocery store, was Kroger. So anyway, if you know anything about this, would you mind emailing me about it at stacyontheright@gmail.com, emailing me a picture perhaps, anything that you know about it. I Googled it, Binged it. I don't use Google. And I didn't see it there. I don't see any stories about Kroger employees being forced to wear this apron with the gay pride patch on it. If you've seen the apron, maybe you work at Kroger, I will not say your name on air, but I'm looking for someone to show me some images and to send them over so we can check it out. Okay. The Heritage website is actually like it's gummed up. I cannot get there. And that's the one I wanted to show to you. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure why that's not coming up for me right now, but I did give you the information. So we talked about that, the donate button, the Kroger story. Here we go. 1 million moms. My producer's awesome. 1 million moms already has an article and petition for Kroger and gay pride. Let's go there now. I want to give you this info before we leave. Okay, so this did come up on Heritage. We're going to hit this all super fast. It says the interstate compact clause, just compact clause actually. No state shall, without consent of Congress, lay any duty or tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. Boom. Interstate compact. It's garbage. It's never going anywhere. All right. So the next thing I want to kind of go over is the 1millionmoms.com. They have the story up about and hold on a second. I'm going to get this right now. 1millionmoms.com. Here we go. Pre-populated for me, guys. So they have moms who are fed up with the trash of the media. They've had some Lucifer went up in smoke. Pastor has been canceled. Oh, I haven't been here on this page in a little bit. Let's see. Kroger is loud and proud. Sign the 1 million. Why would Kroger want to destroy their business like that? You know who's shopping at Kroger? I've never been to a Kroger and seen tons of people dressed up in rainbows, but I've always been there and seen gobs of individuals with kids, moms and dads shopping for kids and families. So, this was from June 3rd. The 1 million moms petition, sign it now. So this is what I want you to do. Listeners, we need you. I need you to go to this website, 1millionmoms.com. It's on the slider at the top of the website. Click and sign the petition. I will post it in the comments to make it easy on folks who are live streaming. And I'll put it on the Facebook page. 1millionmoms.com. They're reporting Kroger Company announced it earned a perfect score, on the 2019 Corporate Equality Index, the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's national benchmarking tool for corporate policies and practices supporting lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer employees. So the annual survey assesses non-discrimination, workplace protections, yada, yada, yada. They say it's a very proud moment for them. Wow. They even posted a letter celebrating Pride Month, and they deliberately avoided including the words gay, lesbian, human rights campaign. They omitted them. You can also call Kroger store managers and ask a few important questions. Pride, for what exactly are you celebrating? What kind of rankings? What kind of events and parades are Kroger sponsoring? Now, right now, the petition has 9,196. Now, we're sitting here. You're listening to me. I'm putting my name in. It lets me pre-populate, put my email in there and everything. I'm changing my email to my work email because that's the one I want to get updates from. Let's see. There's my postal code and submit. Okay, so come on, guys. Let's get this petition actually full of names. Kroger is a place where we're supposed to be able to go and just buy food and household, like house stuff. We're not supposed to have to go there and fight culture wars. So don't you feel like this is something that the left has really done to our society? Everything's been politicized. There's no room anymore for you to just kind of kick back and say, I'm unplugging. Yeah, you can unplug in your backyard or in your family room or your living room or whatever. You can go swim maybe someplace. Well, actually, no, you can't. Not without getting political, because a lot of these public swimming places, you can change with men now. Like, there's no place where the left hasn't kind of said, we're going to make you participate in what we're doing. And it's exhausting. People just want to have some time where they don't have to deal with this stuff. And the grocery store should be one of those places. You should be able to go to the grocery store and not have to confront the manager or the grocery store checker and say, why are you wearing the flag of religious oppression? Because that's what it is. The rainbow flag represents the LGBTQ etc. agenda of crushing Christianity in public life. That's really all that flag means right now. So if they want to put that flag in your face, you have to say, I'm not buying my food from you. You know what I'm saying? Just like, you got to take that off if you're checking me out. That's what I would say. Or it looks like I just wasted 20 minutes of my time filling this basket up. I'm going to have to leave this basket here for you and go buy my food someplace else, because I can't have you putting that in my face while I'm paying you money. That has to be where we are. I know for some people who are listening to the show, you're in you're in a part of the country where you don't have a Walmart on every corner like we do here in the St. Louis metro area, and 50 different options for buying food. I have everything from the Save-A-Lot to Aldi to, I just have to pick what part of the area I want to go shop in and then go there. And there's multiple options for that. There's even private grocery stores here, one called Straub's, which it's expensive as all get out. But they have this cool, like, old-timey system where you can open an account with them. And when you come in to buy groceries, you just say, oh, put it on my account. And they know your name, and they put it on your account, and you pay your grocery bill every month. So, obviously, I've only been there a couple times. I don't actually shop there, but it's so expensive. But we have every option. But if you're living in a part of the country where you don't have a ton of options, and you've got a Kroger and a Walmart, and we're currently running boycotts of each, then it makes it difficult for you. And they're by no means are we legalistic in asking you to do this. But I think having more people sign the petition would definitely be helpful, because that would show Kroger that we have a lot of people who actually oppose this. And it's exhausting, I know. But please don't become discouraged. Do not become weary in well-doing, for if you do not faint, in due time you will reap. God is not a man that he should lie. He cares about us deeply, and he wants us to stand up and be firm in our resolve to be his people. So the minute you think you're getting exhausted, just get your little water or whatever your drink is. It's coffee, it's hot tea. Maybe you like Sprite, whatever. Sip it, send a prayer up, and keep it moving. God bless you. Have a fantastic evening. I'm Stacy Washington.